Fringe North podcast series. So each episode will have some exciting guests from our amazing community of performers and creators who will give us an inside look into both their lives as artists and what they're bringing to the festival this season. Hello, bonjour, Annie. Hola. So this week, I'm so excited to be joined by Kim Kitchen. Kim, thanks so much for joining me.
Pleasure.
So I kind of want to start out by getting to know your work a little bit. For our viewers who may not be familiar, you're a multidisciplinary artist, right? Like you dabble in a little bit of everything.
Sure do.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about how you would describe yourself as an artist?
Well, at this time in my life, I feel, abundantly blessed with so many opportunities. I've been a multidisciplinary artist for many, many years. And interesting enough that, artists that work in many different mediums has always like so attracted me. And I've been really inspired by so many women artists in the world for many years. Judy Chicago, Kiki Smith, just like the list goes on and on and on, and and all multidisciplinary. For me, it's about the experience of like that I don't have to become excellent at one thing. I mean, I'm a painter, I'm a sculptor, I'm an installation artist, I do performance work. And there's just this feeling that when I have content that I want to express and work on, a narrative, it's all about finding, the most suitable way to express that. Right. So it kind of allows me this big swath of, whether it's going to be sculptural, whether it's going to be sound work. It's just like it just kind of comes to me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I've noticed that in your work, and I think it kind of lends to this the femininity, like the what it is to be feminine and to be provided tools and provided with resiliency and the ability to kind of weave together skills and navigate the world and kind of weave together community and meaning and history. And yeah, without divulging too much, can you give us a little bit of insight on what you're bringing to Fringe North this year to reconvene
Yes,
the
yes.
shoreline? Yeah.
So this is a body of work that was 3 years in the making, which really got started just as, before COVID. And I'd received just a really generous grant from the Canada Council for this 3-year project. Since my experience of becoming disabled now 10 years ago, gosh, it's hard to believe that, when I say that out loud. I lived in the bush. My husband and I had a homestead that we created and developed and nurtured. I had a beautiful artist studio there that I was making work out of, and I became very ill. I was in bed for 3 years, with no mobility, including my hands, rheumatoid. Rheumatoid just arrived. It arrived, and it was so severe. So going through that process, um, a dear friend of mine showed up with a Zoom recorder and said to me, just try and capture what you're experiencing in a day, just see it as like a journal way. And, hopefully it lends to you feeling somewhat creative in this time of pause, right? I mean, and it wasn't really just a pause. I was in very, very extreme pain, and, it was just all really shocking, right? I mean, as a bushwoman, I'd been navigating that for many years. So, to kind of hit stop and then, be ill. And really during that time, through all the grief and the sorrow and, getting your head around all of that, um, after 3 years, I found a treatment. My rheumatologist presented a treatment that got me walking again and really lessened the chronic pain I was experiencing daily. So slowly, 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 we then sold our homestead because it became very apparent that, I mean, you have to be strong to live in the bush. And I just couldn't even navigate getting out of my house, right? So big changes, moved, to an urban environment of North Bay, bought a little home that we renovated to make it completely accessible. And through all that, I was feeling, stronger for sure. I was still managing all kinds of symptoms, but all those recordings I had done over the 2.5 years were now there just waiting, to do something with. And I was really interested. I'd never really done a lot of audio work. I was really interested in that piece. I applied for an OAC grant to be mentored and to learn audio. And so that went on for a year. And really, my mentor, we just went through all that I'd recorded, and there was the story. So that piece of work is able to disabled, and it's on my website for anybody who would like to experience that. And so that then led to this next body of work where I went up to Lake Superior. I rented an RV, and it was a research grant to see, could I navigate? Could I travel in an RV? Because I can't sit in a vehicle for very long, or I can't walk when I get to the other end, there's just all these things to navigate. And that 10 days on Lake Superior, again, could I capture? How was it? Could I exist in a provincial park? And after 10 days, my husband, who was my driver and my assistant, and Andrea Pinero, who came for a couple days and really worked on capturing with me and navigating that. I mean, it was like it just turned me on. I mean, I was so excited to be out on the land once again, which has always inspired my work. Superior is a place that, holds such it's just a special place for our family. Always taken our children into camping there. And so that was really exciting. And so then I applied for this large grant. And from that research, one of the things that became most apparent for me was I was no longer a solo artist. I was I was I was working in a team. I needed a team, as well as personal assistants, to feed me, like do all the things so I'd have energy because I have very low energy. Um, yeah, so it just, and all of these artists, that I'd really respected and looked at their work over the years and followed their practices, they all worked in teams, right? And, so another piece of my background has been I love fungi. I mean, I love the earth, but fungi has been this great teacher of interdependence. And and this is what I was learning. I was learning interdependence, right? Asking for help, being able to articulate my situation as a disabled artist. I mean, it's so key because how do you know then what to ask for in regards to assistance if you haven't even got that figured out in your own mind, right?
Right.
And for me, it wasn't, I mean, yes, the grief when your life changes like that and all of that is happening. However, I just felt like it was my time. It was my time to rely on my community, to openly ask for what I needed. I, taken care of many throughout my life and really honored those, traditions of women really caring for women in nurturing ways. And so, I was totally okay with that. You always hear people talk about, no, I don't want anybody bathing me. No, I don't want anybody coming in and cleaning my house. It was like, okay, yeah, let's do this.
Mhm.
And that was all about living my potential,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, totally. Amazing.
So having wheelchairs and having all the aids I needed, as well as this personal support. So we stepped into this 3-year project, team of 10, you know. It was pretty extraordinary, really, and then COVID hit. So that changed the project too, in the sense that we all couldn't go on the road together. We couldn't all be. Anyhow, it all worked out, and to reconvene the shoreline was produced and finished in August of 23, complete with an exhibition catalog.
Yeah, I saw that. It looked beautiful. It was it Whitewater Gallery that you where you exhibited?
I was at the WKP Kennedy Gallery.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Thank you.
And,
Um,
another really big piece for me in making this work is making it as inclusive and accessible as possible. And that hasn't happened yet in the sense of ASL and closed captioning with this work. I unfortunately I had applied for the grant when I got the project to completion. And, there's just all these barriers that go on with accessibility, as, I mean, most are aware. And I didn't receive the grant for that. So this work has yet to be completed in the sense that it reaches a wider audience, you know? But I mean, every time I make work, it's all about, really opening up to everyone.
totally. And I
Yeah.
think that's a large part, like that's kind of what we're all about at Fringe North. I'm new to the organization, but I've been learning, um, what kind of our mandates and our visions, and accessibility is huge. So it's really exciting to be able to, promote your work and share your work with Sault Ste. Marie. So yeah, thanks so much for sharing that experience. I can't imagine the complete change and shift in thinking, and like not only your life, it totally uproots like your just regular living, but as a creative person as well. Um, but it sounds like you've completely pivoted and just embraced, the changes and kind of have grown, which is really, really beautiful. And, I don't know you, didn't know your work prior to the disability, but it seems as though, yeah, to reconvene to Shoreline has, I'm projecting maybe a little bit, but I just sense a sort of protest when I first watched it. And not in a way that's um,
Mm,
not in a way that's like brash or in your face, but it seems to protest almost like an anti-performance. And I'm thinking this in the lens of like the male gaze and the way women's bodies have been kind of commodified. Um, but yeah, I don't know if you want to speak on that, if you've thought of it as kind of a form of protest, as it's like protest but celebration at the same time. Yeah, I don't know if you want to speak
no, I
about
do.
any sort of inspiration. Yeah.
No, I really love that you've put it that way. I never really thought about it like that, but I've been working in sexual violence for 26 years and, advocating. And yeah, I mean, there's just so much to say about this society we live in that, is so dominating and destructive. And so fortunately for me, throughout my life, I've been in the bush, I've been in Northern Ontario. Like it just shaped everything. And growing up as a child on Raven Lake, in Dorset, I fortunately saw my body as part of the earth. So I just never had body hangups. I really I saw what, women have experienced all around me and still do, but that wasn't my reality, you know? And so doing this work and being unclothed in my natural state on the earth, like that just seemed to be the way, it's about my deep love, my deep appreciation for the Great Mother, which also connects me to, the violence the great mother faces as well as women in this society. To me, it's all connected,
Totally.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you really knew, who birthed you and where you came from, you would never really want to hurt that. You would have
Totally.
complete honor and grace and respect for that,
Yeah.
right? Life
Yeah.
source.
Yeah. And I think
So,
that's
that feminine that you talk about, that divine feminine, for me, I've studied matrifocal and ancient civilizations, throughout old Europe, back to 17,000. I'm all about the Neolithic and the Bronze Age and, the narratives that have been totally denied and not even discussed and not valued, right? So that's kind of where I've existed for many, many years. And gathering with women all over the planet and being, so fortunate to experience the teachings and the ceremonies and the rituals. It's just my normal life.
yeah.
Immerse yourself into the arts at Fringe North Festival in Sault Ste. Marie. Enjoy theater, music, multi arts adventures like no other, interactive kids' activities in a beautiful historic city with nature at your fingertips and multicultural cuisine. Come join us. Plan your visit this August.
That's amazing. It's evident in the work. It's not like you're trying to obviously state anything, but to me, these little bits of yourself, like the yeah, there's just an honest vulnerability there, that you're not performing for the viewer, you're connecting to the earth. And it's an invitation to
Mhm.
to to be and to do that as well. And I think yeah, your use of like weaving and sewing together bits of material is kind of like, I don't know, I feel like there's that nod to lineage and
Yeah.
words and history and language, and it's very poetic. So I think you did a really beautiful job um at kind of weaving these things together. um
Thank
and
you.
yeah, it's great. I think yeah, I'm not going to talk too much more about it just because we'll be showing the work at Fringe North between August 21st and 25th. So it'll be great. I'm really excited to have it up there. Yeah, you've talked a little bit about some projects and working in North Bay. So you grew up in Dorset, you mentioned, right?
Well, I grew up in Southern Ontario, Woodstock,
Okay.
but my
Okay.
parents fortunately had a cottage on Raven Lake, boat access only, and I spent most of my childhood there. And yeah, so when Perry and I fell in love and decided, to get married, I said to him, I don't want a cottage. I want to live in Northern Ontario. It was so clear for me. And so, yeah, that has been our life. And we're so grateful. The film is coming to the Fringe. The other part of the exhibition work won't be there, of course. And, that's always a difficult move, right? As an artist, it is for me to just show like one part of it because it feels like so connected to all the other pieces. But I really felt like, it's hard to, it's such a large installation, it just
Yeah.
can't be put up in a day.
Yeah.
And so I really made the decision to break it up and I've had lots of offers for the film. And the film, it feels like my legacy work. This whole work feels like my legacy work. It's something I've thought about for many, many years and not with details or how this would happen. It felt very just very organic. And all about to meet up, to arrive once again, a convergence of being and becoming.
Yeah.
The shoreline is both refuge and passage, and one emerges from or enters through it.
Mhm.
It's just such a powerful point when you're on a shoreline.
Yeah. Especially the Superior shoreline.
Oh,
It's so rugged and beautiful and always changing. And yeah, it has so much energy. So it's a powerful body of water.
I ended up filming this work on the South Shore of Lake Nipissing,
Oh,
which
okay.
is another magical,
Yeah.
magical place. I mean, the
Yeah.
stone and the shoreline, it's wow,
Yeah.
so powerful. And these places for me navigate ideas of separation of, through illness, right? How we return, disability, lack of access, and ideas of, through creativity, rediscovery, and community. And so this work for me is all about that. And, how we explore our bodies. Everything's been so sexualized, like it's so twisted,
Yeah. Yeah.
so twisted.
Yeah.
How our bodies can be covered in safety and isolation or in hiding, and uncovered in kinship, ecstasy, and determination, right? And going into those spaces now, in regards to my physical changed capacity, I mean, it's a tough place to go, to wander into the bush, to be on rock, to lay your body on that hard surface, when your body is really dealing with so much pain.
Yeah.
And to me, that imagery is about that as well. You
Yeah.
know, if I was clothed, it wouldn't present the same at all.
No.
You know,
Yeah.
that you have the opportunity to see the skin tones against the rock tones,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
they're just so reflective. Like our
Yeah.
bodies are everywhere around us.
Yeah. 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 I'm a painter. So, I'm a very visual person, and I was thinking, well, it's beautiful imagery. Yeah, it's like, oh wow, that could be painted, it's the way, yeah, the way your body like folds. I don't want to divulge too much, but it's just, and I'm, like, again, a visual person, but it's you're part of the earth, like, truly, and it's great in that way. And I think it's really bold and courageous, and but like should be normalized, like it's
Yeah.
yeah.
And as a crone now, I mean, I'm a crone. My yaya, our children have outed the world, doing their thing. And yeah, I just figure, now's the time. Like if I'm finding with grandmothers and crones everywhere, like we're feeling so much dis-ease in, where stuff is going, that we just have to be really loud and clear and show other ways, like just present other perspectives,
Yeah. Yeah.
that one doesn't have to continually be standing in lines to the doctrine and the demands of, culture, right?
Yeah.
You can
Totally.
step out of line
Yeah. Yeah.
anytime.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've kind of led that philosophy kind of your whole life, or your adult
Yeah.
life, choosing to live
Yes.
out in the bush and stuff. And it's like you had the tools and you to do this, and now you're kind of living that out in its fullest way. And you mentioned that you wouldn't be able to do this without community. So I'm kind of curious. You did talk about your circle of support, which I think everyone does need, and I think there's a huge lack of community in those ways, in a lot of, if in our like Western culture. I know lots of indigenous communities are thriving, in their, yeah, in their communities and their support systems and stuff. I was living in the Northwest Territories for a few years, and you mentioned that you also lived in Hay River.
Yes. And we used to go to Fort Smith to visit new friends we'd made. And oh my gosh, we loved Fort Smith.
Yeah, it's
Such
amazing.
great memories.
It's amazing. I have so much fondness for that north. I'm new to Algoma, so I don't really know it super well. I grew up in northern Ontario and Geraldton, which is north of Thunder Bay. But anyways, so I'm familiar with kind of northern communities and living out in kind of rurally in the bush. We call it the bush. It's
I know.
not
Right?
the forest.
No, the bush.
Yeah. But yeah, there was that level of community in Fort Smith, and it opened my eyes because I'd never experienced that before. And it sounds like you were kind of able to like build that in your connection. And I guess I'm kind of thinking, like, do you feel as though there's a shift with kind of COVID has changed our perception of community? And I think it's kind of made us realize that we need our support. But that can mean different things. That can mean like accessibility. We're able to have conversations over virtual, talks and stuff like that. But there still is an importance of meeting, I think, in person. So I'm kind of curious to know what you feel is happening right now in community and in the northern scene in like North Bay, and what you feel should happen or what you see the future of it being.
So 2 points I want to make to that. The community that I am, being supported by and working in partnership with, again, these relationships that are formed because there's willingness, right? There's intention, there's mindfulness. So my videographer, my photographer, able-bodied people that, have stepped up to be part of projects. And the great exchange in that is that they're learning about best practice in how to support a disabled artist, right? So, that great exchange. And my ability and capacity, to not have shame, because this really keeps people so isolated, because it is socially not acceptable to be ill or to have, to have things that, have been set aside as other. And the only way we really develop these relationships and understanding, as with any issue, social issue, is to step in and then be a part of that and then learn, how that person exists in the world, right? And it forever changes us. So that relationship going on with the people that I've been working with has been really incredible, in the great exchange.
Yeah. I love how you refer to as the great exchange, because it is a constant like adaptation to needs and learning and the environment and both like needs of people, right? I think that's what community is. It's not like a law, a standard
stagnant still.
Yeah,
it's not,
always
it's ever
shifting.
evolving, right?
Yeah. And we're reacting to our environments, and like one person's needs are different than another's.
And those needs change all the time. I mean,
those-
one day I get up and, I can't walk and I need my wheelchair that day. And, I need somebody to like, do all my personal things. And then like 6 hours later, I can be, walking down the street. Like people have no consciousness or awareness or education about illness like that.
Yeah.
So people like myself who are working are living with such chronic conditions, it's changing hourly, and so that in itself of navigating and the acceptance, it's really quite a mind game. So I also am very understanding of people who just haven't had that experience. They don't understand, and we haven't been taught about this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one part. The other part about COVID for me is, boy, I was isolated before COVID.
Right.
COVID changed all of that. I could attend anything on Zoom. I mean, it was like the whole world just opened up.
Amazing.
However, the masses demanded that, not for inclusion, not to include people who are disabled and can't make it to events or spaces. And so one of the things, disabled folks have been advocating for throughout COVID is you can't change this. Like, don't stop this.
Stop. Yeah.
Don't stop. Well, it is.
Is it?
Oh my gosh, I cannot believe the change in the last year.
Oh,
It's so sad. So sad. But again, the masses get to show up at all these things now again. So they're good.
yeah.
And it's a terrible thing to point out, but it's the truth.
No, and you need to be honest. Like, and see,
It is
I
the
don't
truth.
know. I don't know. See, because
No,
I
exactly.
don't have that experience.
Right.
So we need to communicate in these ways. And mind you, I don't participate in a ton of things, other than the kind of smaller community-based events and stuff. Because I've lived rurally for a number of years, but
Right.
it's good to know that, and it's sad that that's the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it
the
really,
reality,
really
right?
is.
It's the
Yeah.
reality.
Um,
And so, one of the things, I mean, and I say that I could attend anything in the world. Not that I was, because again, capacity, fatigue, like all those things, but the opportunity that I could, I mean, it really was incredible.
yeah.
And so, people who say, oh, I felt so isolated in COVID, for a lot of us disabled folks, the whole world opened up. So completely opposite experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I just got back from doing a 3-week artist residency in Greece. I looked for 2 years. I researched 2 years international residencies. I could not find an accessible residency.
Wow.
And then it came across my desk, Iris Art Center, half an hour train ride outside of Athens. This woman, Annette, and her husband, Adoni, built this house in 1985, and Adoni's sister, MS, had come to her. And so they built their villa completely accessible, elevator, comfortable everything, accessible everything. And so I went, and wow, it was so remarkable, to be out in the world, which I've always loved. And I had assistants that went with me. I was, funded for residency grants. But to arrive in a rural setting in a home where I could just totally navigate was really incredible.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it really was. I didn't really think it was going to be possible, but it is. You just have to really look for those kind of opportunities. They do exist, but
Yeah.
we just have to change. I mean, and I sent a very detailed email to Res Arts, stating that for 2 years I'd been looking, and if I could just encourage you all to, on the initial page you land on for residencies, say whether it's accessible or not and what that accessibility includes. Because I had to go look through pictures. I had to look at maps. I had to, it wasn't this easy thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because nobody was telling me.
Yeah. And that's the whole point, is having it be accessible.
No, right? And just
Like,
to
it's
say
just,
it, like just say it on there.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's not, fine, click, on you
Yeah,
go.
because obviously, yeah, and obviously, the needs of folks with disabilities are different than
No different.
non-disabled people. Like
Yeah,
able-bodied, you can just show up and it's not an issue. You don't have to second guess it. Yeah, that's well, I'm
because
glad that
that's
you,
that's part of a reality too, when you call a hotel or you're making a booking somewhere and you say, I need accessibility for mobility. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. Like you could call 3 times and they would say this, and then you arrive and it isn't even close,
yeah,
Like you're
yeah,
just so those definitely are real struggles and challenges. And I just call on everyone to just, keep it close in your mindfulness that, with whatever you're doing, like think about that. Think about who are you inviting in, Who are you welcoming to the table?
yeah, and especially within the arts, within any community, it is very important. It's necessary to have multiple perspectives and multiple voices. But um, you'd think within the arts, we try to celebrate that, or we say that we're promoting, different perspectives, and a lot of organizations and artists, and they try to pride themselves in kind of curating that, but it's not always the case, obviously, as you
It
have
is not.
experienced.
It is far from it.
Yeah,
Because, there is a colonial aesthetic. Let's face it. When I
yeah,
walk into a gallery and I see no chair or I see like a bench, I'm
yeah,
like, uh-oh.
yeah,
Or, there's a little chair they pull out that perhaps my ass doesn't even fit in. Or it doesn't feel stable. There are no
yeah,
hand. I can't help myself to get up out of the chair once I get in it. Like
yeah,
all of these things, but it's all part of this aesthetic that needs to change.
totally. Yeah,
The tags for artwork on walls, there's no reason why they can't be printed at 18 size font.
yeah,
Like all these guidelines are there. That doesn't cost any more money
yeah,
because that's always seems to be the conversation goes to, well, we've tried to make things accessible, but it just costs too much money. It's like there are so many things to be done that only cost your thinking to
yeah,
expand.
yeah, yeah,
That's it,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
And it's like, and there are different solutions, and you can just chat with people, like ask questions, like what, like ask, yeah, oh, this person has a disability, maybe I'll chat and see what they feel is right, instead of just making decisions on their behalf. um yeah, it's interesting, and it's good to talk about, because yeah, I've worked in the arts for a few years, and accessibility is hugely important. Having diverse voices is hugely important, and I totally agree with the colonial aspect of we critique it. I went to school for art, so it's interesting that it's critiqued constantly, and we're always responding to colonialism and the Western institution, but it's often not, like, we're not actually getting diverse voices in the picture. It's just like the same academic theoretical
Same
critique,
thing. Same thing.
it's using the same language. Like it's not,
Mm.
it's kind of, I don't know, not to get into theory, but like Karl Marx would argue that you can't change anything through using the same tools and the same language, like there's no, the structure is there. We're not breaking it. It's not. So I think it's really powerful that you're showing up with such vulnerability and
Mm.
and power, and just doing
Yeah.
the work that is really honest. I think, congratulations on the grants and the
Mm.
yeah, the residencies. Like it's really, that's amazing. It's truly amazing.
So,
Yeah. Do you have any plans for what's coming up?
oh my gosh, do I have plans?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have another body of work awaiting. I was invited to be one of 10 Canadian artists chosen and invited last year to Kitchener by InterArts Matrix, who headed up a project called A Hole in the Ground. And we each had 2 weeks in this little park in Old Kitchener area neighborhood, and a 7-foot hole, 6 feet deep, 7 feet long, like 3 or 4 feet across. And each artist, a variety of artists, from choreographers to actors to writers, created work for 2 weeks. So I did 7 installations on site over the 2 weeks. And it was all in regards to death, regeneration, and birth, which are themes that I continually explore and move through. Again, all three being so oppressed in our society and culture.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
mainstream culture.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's going on. The Whitewater Gallery has partnered with me to create this work and exhibit it in September 2025. And I
Amazing.
also have 3 other shows in 2025. So, you know, the work continues, and yeah, it's wonderful.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Thank
That's a big deal. 3 shows, that's a congratulations. It's pretty amazing. I'm excited to see what comes out of this, and it's been really great learning about your practice and learning about your thinking and your process. You've been really generous sharing your experience. And yeah, I guess I kind of like, do you have any advice for young artists? And this could be for anyone experiencing any sort of either struggle or not. Like, you've been an artist, it sounds like you're for most of your life. So yeah, can you impart any wisdom?
Well, you know that old saying, lemon, make lemonade. I mean, it really is about valuing our own self-worth and you know, feeling all of that as you move through these life changes and finding your way to contribute to humanity. And of course it ain't easy, it has been really, really a challenge. And not so much for my identity, but just for figuring out how you move forward, you know, and letting go of all those preconceived and societal, ideologies that are just really impacting so many people. That change just can't happen fast enough
Yeah.
for me, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that reach out, you know, figure out how you describe your experience, to be open about that. Because really, we cannot ask for assistance and support if we can't even talk about our own situations, and finding that language, instead of using a word like, well, I'm weak now. Well, my capacity has changed. I need to be horizontal 4 or 5 times a day, 20 minutes at a time. Sometimes I sleep, sometimes I don't, but it's about the stillness. It's about giving my body that rest, you know?
Yeah. And
And
listening to
like I
our
said, those things are changing hourly.
yeah. Mm. Yeah.
So it is about surrender. I use that word because people think of surrender as this handing over, when really for me, surrender is so empowering. It's about letting things be the way they truly are, and then working with that instead of the repel and the fighting and the pushing away. Bring it in, hold it, hold it.
Amazing. I think of ego when you mention that a lot, and I've thought of ego and creativity so much. and surrender is a beautiful word that I might pin on my studio wall if that's okay.
Yes.
Because I think that, disabled or able-bodied folks, everyone would experiences this like desire to connect with themselves, but so we're living in a world where, like you mentioned, it's so hard to, because of societal expectations and rules and ways that we're like asked to show up but might not feel genuine. And so I think we can learn so much from your wisdom and to show up and like you say, surrender. Because I think we all need to be present. And I think that it's a struggle for a lot of people. So
and to create new value systems. We need new value systems.
Yeah. It's a way to connect that we shouldn't overlook, I think. So thank you so much, Kim, for joining me today.
Emelie, this has been wonderful. Thank you.
It's been such an honor chatting with you. I'm really excited for your work to be shown this summer at the Fringe North Festival. It's happening in Sault Ste. Marie from August 21st to 25th.
Thank you so much for having me. Really, Fringe on, just on that strip where Lake Superior begins. Oh my.
Yeah, it's a special spot. So if any of our viewers want to support the team and the work we're doing, please consider tipping the Fringe. Your support not only helps us, but also supports emerging and northern artists. Every dollar counts. So you can find the link for that below, and we'll be doing another episode soon. So we can't wait to see you soon. Thanks again, Kim Kitchen. We're so happy to have you, and I look forward to chatting with you soon.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Take care. Have a great summer.
Yes, you too.
Hooray there. I'm the Hitherso, the proud mascot of Fringe North 2024. You'll see me swaying in the wind throughout the festival, just like I do in the beautiful shorelines of Manitoulin Island. I'm an artist in my own right, bringing a touch of natural beauty wherever I go. Fringe North is all about celebrating the vibrant arts community in the north. And guess what? 100% of our box office sales goes straight to paying the amazing artists who bring the festival to life. But to keep the magic going, I need your help. If you spot me around the festival, feel free to ask me questions or discover cool facts about Fringe North. And most importantly, tip the Fringe. Your support helps us to continue to bring this incredible festival back year after year. So, want to support Fringe North? Tip the Fringe and let the arts flourish. Remember, Fringe North, expect the unexpected. For more information on how to tip the Fringe, head on over to SouFringe.com.